This podcast is brought to you by Entertain This.
Oh, yeah! Whoa! Brother!
Today we got me, Mitch, we have Hayden and Tom, and today we're here with Mr. Neal Pruitt. He was the producer, cinematographer for WCW, especially back in the 90s and the Monday Night Nitro. If you want to introduce yourself and talk about more of what you did in your career and some of the influences you had over everything.
Yeah, I'm Neal Pruitt. I was the producer, actually first for the NWO, and
Okay.
my voice was decided later because of a suggestion that I had for my bosses when I spoke with both Craig Leathers and Keith Mitchell and Kevin Sullivan about who would actually be the voice of the NWO. So my suggestion was to be somebody other than one of the current announcers that we had, because I didn't think it made a whole lot of sense in WCW to have somebody that we've heard of. If it's going to be an organization that's kind of trying to take over from a different era or a different, location. So I just told them that I thought we needed to have somebody that we've never heard. And I had a person in mind, which was actually a person, I think his name was Kevin Eubanks. He was on 99X in Atlanta on an alternative radio station that I really liked called 99X.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, what does that voice sound like? I said, well, it's kind of raspy. He feels like 99X, like that. And the emotion's kind of odd. And they go, why don't you do it? I was like, okay. So I did it from that point on. They made it easy for me, a producer.
They just said your voice was steely and gravelly or more manly than the other guy.
No, not necessarily. It just was a lot easier. If I could just go ahead and imitate him,
Sure.
it just was a lot easier for me as a producer, because then I would never have to call anybody on the phone in the middle of the night to get them to do a voiceover that I need for the next day. If I was told to do some kind of package that they needed to air.
I don't think there's any kid our age that hasn't heard your voice do the NWO intro. So I mean, that's pretty cool.
Oh, well, thanks. It's kind of fun to carry it around and use it every now and
then. Yeah.
Just to say the New World Order.
There it is. So, how did you get into wrestling as far as production stuff?
It's a little bit of a long story, but I knew what I wanted to do in 10th grade. I knew I wanted to be a television producer. Mm-hmm. My dad was a electrician at a steel mill in Northeast Ohio, and he was also a TV repairman on the side. And I literally got to see TV from the inside out. So to me, it was a magical box. And when you look inside there and see all those tubes glowing and the wires strewn everywhere, it was magical. How does that work? How does that get somebody's image on the other side of the world? I was just fascinated by that from the very beginning as a kid. And once I was able to kind of assess my skill levels and what I did and what my proclivities were, like as far as doing different projects and crafts and things like that, and what I thought I was good at, I thought a TV producer really fit my personality. So I was in little broadcasting things in high school, but then I went to college at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, which is just south of Toledo. And I was on the air for 4 years there, starting at 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. on my first shift, which is Tuesday and Thursday.
Wow.
But the cool thing about being that late at night, when I come in on, and the DJ would come in on 7 o'clock in the morning, especially on Friday, these would be some of the people that were already on the air in Toledo, Ohio, and they were already rock station DJs.
Right.
So I get to talk to them and find out what I should do to make myself better and somewhat get to their level. I knew I didn't want to be in radio,
right,
although I ended up being the morning DJ for a couple days a week at my college. I just knew I could never develop a fake laugh, and that's one thing you really need to do if you're going to go into radio. Yeah, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't see myself laughing at things that just weren't funny.
Oh, so you have to humor people and stuff like that, when they tell you.
Yeah, I think you have to act as if it's more funny than it is when people talk, and I'm just not real good at that. I mean, I think my expressions show in my face, and
well, you fit in great here. I don't laugh at any of Tom's jokes. So.
I hate you.
Well, that works out then.
I mean, I'm not expecting like the Jimmy Fallon, maneuver over here.
Yeah, he goes way overboard. But I decided then to come down to Georgia, to Atlanta, because I eventually would like to work with Ted Turner, and I luckily got the opportunity to direct him a couple times and write a script for him.
No way. So you got to,
that was a big deal.
You got to meet Ted Turner.
Yeah, we got to direct him a couple times. I don't know if you were able to see the Bash at the Beach intro. It was for Ric Flair signing the contract with Hulk Hogan to wrestle him at Bash at the Beach. But that was with Ted Turner at the table, and at the conference table, and all that I got to direct. And it was kind of cool being from Ohio, because the audio guy was from Ohio, and so was the technical director was as well. So that was kind of a cool connection for all of us.
I've heard a lot of interesting stories about Ted Turner. Would you say that they are all true?
Probably.
He's certainly a unique individual.
Yeah, you could say a renegade for sure.
I went to film school, and we studied a lot about Ted Turner, because he was so against the grain, so to speak, as far as a network executive. The off commercial breaks and stuff like that he would do for his programming, and how cutthroat he was for business, and obviously him having WCW versus the WWF
at the time,
versus the WWF, and how I mean. It was a war, let's be honest. It was a war of business, and him buying out people like Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. Were you working with WCW before the NWO, or did you slowly start working once the NWO became a thing?
No, I worked before. NWO was just another one of my projects, really.
Okay.
So I had done many more before that, and had been on the cruise and been involved with lots of stuff before the NWO ever came to fruition.
Gotcha. So you were there at the heights of the war, so to speak.
Yes, I was there from 1990 to 2001.
Ooh, wow. So you saw all the interesting stuff. Do you remember what the climate was like when Hulk Hogan got signed?
I think people were kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Where their spots were, because when you bring in a top dog like that, they know that he's got a lot of other entourage that he's going to try to bring in.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody was kind of second guessing their position and where they would stand.
Really?
I know the top guys were, kind of concerned, I'm sure.
With Hulk Hogan, does he say brother just like all the time? Like behind closed doors, there's no cameras. He's still going, brother.
Yeah, he said brother-in-law, yeah.
At least he stays true to character.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I always got along great with him. He knew the art of making films, and it made it a lot easier for me because I didn't have to explain why I wanted certain things. He understood, like, okay, Hulk, remember that shot we just did right there? Okay, so I need you to back up like 10 seconds in time. I need to do something just like what you just did because we're going to lead to this shot. Okay.
Well, because he had been in several movies and a couple of TV shows before joining WCW after he left WWF, right?
That's right. I actually met him on the set of Thunder in Paradise.
I heard about that.
TV show that he did.
That's
where I first met him. That was down in Orlando on the beach. They were doing a scene. Well, I should say the beach of whatever Disney had made, a lagoon or something. That's where I first met him.
Tom is very familiar with that TV show, Thunder in Paradise.
Yes, very familiar with Thunder in Paradise. Thank you, Hayden.
Now, I know some of the people weren't so happy about that Thunder in Paradise, like Jesse the Bonaventura.
Oh, yeah?
He's not a Navy SEAL.
Neither is Jesse Ventura.
He was not really happy about that because obviously Jesse was, and he knows what kind of dedication commitment it takes to be a Navy SEAL. So.
Oh, wow. I did not know that Jesse Ventura was in the Navy SEALs. So.
Yeah, he was an interesting character to work with. I remember one time, and we really never had a whole lot of sympathy for Jesse because he was making so much money.
Yeah.
But I remember one time we were in Philadelphia and there was a time change or something. He was used to being on California time. He goes, I can sleep for another hour. We don't care, Jesse.
You should have said
We don't care. You're getting paid enough money.
Yeah, you should have said you don't got time to sleep.
Right. He was making some kind of fortune, so we weren't too sympathetic in that little gesture.
Wow.
Well, as you went along, like, besides just trying to beat out WWF, what kind of was the idea behind making the NWO? Because you had Hogan and you had, I think you had Macho Man already before the NWO, before Scott Hall and Kevin Nash arrived, right?
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
You had Hogan and Macho Man before Scott Hall and Kevin Nash arrived. So what kind of was the basis of developing the NWO besides just, just for ratings?
I think that Hogan was actually looking for another avenue. I think he had kind of made his run and thought he just needed to change. I think Eric wasn't too, he wasn't too sure as to whether Hogan was going to go for it. I don't think at first. I mean, I didn't talk to him personally about it, but I've since heard things on different podcasts and stuff like that he wasn't really sure he was going to go for it, but he did. And it worked out really well, I thought, as far as just the difference that it made and the different styles that we were able to bring into those interviews, I think helped the fans out realize what really does happen. And I think that's what hit home. I think that helped a lot.
So obviously you have your wrestler's persona, okay? But let's be honest, they kind of have to have a big ego in order to be that guy off camera as well, behind the scenes. And I don't want to use the word manipulation, but do you think that they would purposely put the spotlight on people to join the NWO or something like that to encourage other big-time players like Hulk Hogan, when the spotlight's off of them, to say, like, hey, this could be you, and let them be the ones that make the phone call and say, hey, how come this isn't me, kind of thing, or
That's a good point. I mean, yes, I can say that a lot of them had egos for sure, and even big executives and doctors that I've worked with and things like that, they have egos too.
Yeah, Tom has an ego.
But luckily, I didn't really cave to any of that. My father said, you're no better than anybody and nobody's better than you.
Right.
And that's one thing I've always carried with me. I'm not intimidated by people.
Right.
I don't think that they're better than me.
Right.
So I think that really helped my career as far as being a producer, because I talked to Hogan like I'm talking to you right now. There was no difference. I think they picked up on that and they appreciated that.
Yeah,
actually, I think
they'd have to respect that, especially if you're coworkers, not just some fan that's always, nagging and annoying them. So
yeah, I don't think they have to accept it, but they did, because I think they knew that we as production people were there to make them look good, and that was our job. And if they didn't, then we'd be in kind of hot water. Not that I've ever gotten any serious talking to, but I know that was our position. And even though they sometimes would want to let things slip, I would not.
Right.
I would not let them get away with doing something that wasn't good.
Right. That's
and I think they respected that in the end, because I got in a little controversy with one of the podcasts I was on one time by saying that I thought a lot of the athletes were spoiled since they were in junior high. and that some of them acted as if they should be treated differently and not have to work hard.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's because you're used to being babied and you're used to being told you're great when sometimes you're not.
Yeah,
I can.
And I said, I was always willing to say when you're not. Sorry.
Wow,
it's just part of it.
That's awesome, though. I mean, and honestly, people like that need to hear that.
I think so. In the end, they know the truth wins out. And luckily, I'm 6'2".
Oh wow!
So that helped too. So I was able to look them in the eye. I was asked many times if I was a wrestler, but I think it helped a little bit.
Yeah, that would. I wish I had that help.
As someone who is 6'2", it is quite nice.
Yeah.
I was not really a wrestling fan, so to speak, when I first got into the business. However, I did watch every now and then when WWF was on.
Right.
When I was in college, I would see things like when Macho Man got married to Miss Elizabeth, and
Right.
when Piper's Pit went on. I thought that was pretty entertaining. But I actually used to get kind of mad when they'd interrupt Saturday Night Live.
Oh, really?
WWF.
So
And I didn't want to see wrestling. I'd rather see
SNL.
Saturday Night Live back then. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah, I understand that. I mean, I would today still, but honestly, as a student of production, even though I don't really am entertained, I could say as much as the next person for wrestling, you got to respect the business. The way that they are able to crank out numbers and be consistent for years on end and continue to reinvigorate the business. That's a fascinating process.
It is. It's a male soap opera.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I was appreciative of, believe me, after I was in the business for a little while, I was able to appreciate the physicality, the athleticism,
Oh yeah.
the ability to project your thought process and do a little bit of trickery to fool the crowd. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, filmmaking in general is all about tricking the eye and letting the imagination
Right.
go and drift into your videos. And that's kind of how I approached it with
Yeah.
production. And on Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro,
Uh-huh.
that's what we talk about. We talked about how we do things in the back and how the thought process was carried forward from the initial thought to production and seeing it air. So I think that's what makes my podcast unique with Guy Evans,
Okay.
is that we talk about stuff that nobody else does.
Do you think that, and I don't want to get too much into film theory, but do you think that the suspension of disbelief, probably arguably being more lax for a wrestling audience, kind of makes it easier for people to try out new thematic elements that you couldn't even try in theater, for instance?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's a great point. I could talk film theory all day long
Yeah.
because that's my interest.
Well, hey, this is going a lot better than I thought it would.
But yeah, the whole idea of the philosophy that they always talk about, a philosophy of wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
that is that knowing that people know it's not real.
Right.
Real is a tough term.
Right.
It is real. They really do get hurt. They really do fall, and they really do break bones and hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's staged, yes, but I think a lot of times people try to put themselves into the position of that wrestler in particular,
Right.
whether they have an issue with their boss or their friend or their spouse or whoever. I
Yeah.
think that's part of what brings people into wrestling and makes them interested.
Huh.
They're able to take their thoughts and what they have going on in their life and relate to a wrestler that's going through a similar problem or issue.
And kind of outlet what they're going through into that Monday night experience.
Yeah, it's like when you go to see a concert or something like that, you see these people that probably would never get out of their lounge chair.
Yeah.
That have a beer in one hand and a channel changer in the other.
Right.
Yet they get up and dance and go wild, and I think it's just an outlet. It's a relief from stress where they can yell and scream and cheer for their person. I think that's kind of what college football is all about, or sporting events in general.
Yeah.
I think it helps people just to relieve some of the pressure that they have in their lives and forget about it for a while.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was going to ask you, on the days of like shooting and stuff, when y'all were filming, what was kind of like your process as you went throughout the day?
Well, a lot of times I would get to go play golf.
Right. That's a great process.
I get to golf with Jesse a few different times and Tony Schiavone.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan Bynum, who is a director, he was a director for Ring of Honor as well and some other things. Keith Mitchell every now and then. And we used to like to golf. And a guy named Woody, who actually made it to the ring, was one of the production's assistants. But luckily we got to the building sometimes a little bit later than you'd expect somebody to, just because the events were so late.
Right.
So we would get there and kind of check in and find out what it is on the agenda that we would need to like either go over or hear about the events so we could take care of business as soon as we could. And they had a pretty good schedule when they knew what was happening. The frustrating part was when sometimes they didn't.
Right.
They didn't have a plan often enough for me. But I wasn't always, once I got into the career for a while, I started actually doing audio for the interviews for the town specifics, market specifics, and all the other shows. And I was lucky enough to figure out a big flaw that they had in their system, which was they had, say, 10 to 12 tapes that would be 20-minute tapes back then, cassettes. And the people that were editing the shows, they would have to dig through all these tapes to find their various interviews. Well, I saw a big flaw in that, going, man, why don't just each show, why don't they have their own tape? Well, the reason why they did that was because they just let the tape roll inside the camera. And as people would come up, say Sting would come in and have something to do for WCW Saturday Night, and then something to do for Power Hour Canada, and then something to do for an international show called Worldwide.
They wouldn't switch.
They wouldn't switch tapes.
Oh, I gotcha.
And I was like, that's just a real big flaw.
Yeah, that's kind of.
So I said, hey guys, do you mind if I try to use my own system that I think would work best? And they said, no, go ahead. So I remember the time that I took the tapes back, and I said, well, what show do you produce? Because I didn't know the people very well at all then. I said, what show do you produce? I produce Worldwide. I said, well, here's your tape. They go, where's the other tapes? I said, you don't need any other tapes. They go, what do you mean? I said, they're all on this tape. They go, really? I said, yeah. They go, wow. That's awesome.
He's a wizard.
He's a whiz kid. So I guess from an outside world, sometimes when you come in, because I used to direct a nightly sports show just before that. So I've always been into systems and perfecting things and making them most efficient. And I think that helped with giving that right away, that they knew that this person, even though they're new, they know the process of production, which I think really gave me a big boost then to further me going higher into producing video packages and things like that. Because when I did the nightly sports show, what we did during the day was we interviewed people like Vince Dooley with the Georgia Bulldogs, or Bobby Cremens with the Georgia Tech team, and also maybe Dominique Wilkins with the Hawks. I mean, that's kind of the era that I was involved with before getting to WCW, and I already had dealt with celebrities like that. And I think it's proven myself being able to just, get a decent product out there. And I think all those combined helped.
Was the majority of the production company at that point just like not trained prior to working their positions? Were they like hiring locals, or, No, we had the best of the best. Really?
Yeah, there was very few. Now, granted, there were a few that really shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
But
That's everywhere.
For the most part, absolutely everybody was top notch.
Oh, okay.
These people had all done wrestling with Channel 39 in Dallas, Texas. A lot of them with the Von Erichs. I mean, that's where my best boss ever, Keith Mitchell, who now still executive produces the AEW show.
Okay.
He was involved with that and in charge of that. So that guy knows who's good at what they do. And luckily, he saw something in me that enabled me actually even to go on to produce the WCW Saturday Night Show.
Yeah.
After only being in the truck for 2 times.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
Can you think of any other kind of networks besides WWF and WCW that was doing live events every week, or was it just like its own thing?
Oh, obviously the NFL and NBA, people like that have been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
That's nothing really new. A lot of the people that we had on our staff, they had been involved with those types of productions over the years. And there was a million people waiting in line to get any of our jobs, and we all knew that. So therefore, we all got along. And if somebody came in that didn't really take it seriously or want to do the top-notch production or weren't willing to do whatever it took to get it right, then we got rid of them.
Oh, okay. So
that's why I say we had the best.
You guys hired mostly through sports news and stuff like that for your production company?
Yeah, mostly sports and feature production stuff.
Okay.
News people, I think they had a different vibe, and I didn't see many news people, honestly.
Yeah.
If I were to say, where do we get them from? Yes, sports, for sure.
Right.
And then other productions. And we had people that did big things at like PBS stations as well, even something like where they're making mini documentaries and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was a wide variety, but most of it wasn't from news. And I think it's because we wanted to have a more polished look, a more polished style.
Right.
Often news is capture things when you can.
Right. Yeah.
See, we make ours up, so
Yeah.
we can perfect it more, and we can plan it a little more, and we can light it a little more, and we can make the angles better and things like that.
Were you ever sitting in the writing room to plan out a match or a character story arc or anything like that?
Not very often, and
No.
I think that was a big mistake for people that were writers. I really do, because I think they should have had a suggestion box where anybody in the company could put a suggestion in there, and then I think they should have acknowledged that person.
Really?
Because people that were in the tape division, even, that would make the duplications to send our shows across the world, surely they had a couple ideas. I mean, I would talk to them every now and then just to see what they thought about certain angles that went on or whatever. And they would tell me, you know, what they thought about it. And I thought sometimes they had really good ideas. And obviously the production people being that close to it, and even speaking with a lot of the wrestlers personally, I think that there's a gold mine of things and ideas that you could come up with just out of their conversations. But
can't be worse.
Wrestling's a paranoid business.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it
Paranoid business.
Somebody's idea can't be worse than some of the other dumb personas I've seen for wrestling in the past. So, you know.
Well, I mean, I think some of the stuff that I saw with Vince Russo, for instance, I thought you can't make this stuff up and not be malicious on purpose.
Really?
I thought some of the stuff was just so ludicrous and so stupid that it's like, I thought he was getting paid by Vince personally.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I really think some of those ideas were so far out and so outlandish that this guy's got to be getting paid to bring this company down.
Well, yeah, because he joined. Yeah, he joined WCW right towards the end of everything, falling apart.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it was like it seems kind of like presidential politics in some ways between Vince McMahon and Ted Turner. All the shysting going on back and forth, and
if you want to read the book that really explains it best as what Eric Bischoff has said on his podcast, is read Guy Evans' book, my co-host to the Neal Pruitt Secrets of WCW Nitro.
Okay.
Read the book Nitro, The Incredible Rise, Inevitable Collapse of Ted Turner at WCW. He interviews, I believe, 137 people about why WCW collapsed. And Eric said to me personally and on his podcast that there's a lot of people that he wishes he would have been able to get a meeting with that Guy talked to about the book. So, if you want to know how it all went down and how it all just kind of crumbled, read that book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nitro.
It sounds very fascinating.
That's why I've been listening to it on audio, and it's I think I'm at like chapter 9 or something at the moment, but it's pretty interesting. Some of the behind the scenes stuff you hear about.
That's cool.
Yeah, very interesting. I thought it was the most comprehensive thing I'd ever seen or read, and that's partially why I got involved with the podcast originally. I was trying to help Guy out because I could tell he was sincere after speaking with him, that he wanted to tell the true story.
Yeah. And
he said, hey, if you got he interviewed me for probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours about all the NWO and how everything went down and how it all got started and all this, similar to what you guys are doing, but much more in depth.
Right.
And I said, he said, if you got any more stories, let me know, but just record them on your iPhone and just send them to me. I said, okay. So I remembered how we did Piper and Alcatraz, which was absolutely backwards and things like that compared to other productions. And I told him some stories, and he goes, we need to get these on podcast. People want to hear this stuff. I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah, I think they do. So I said, okay, I think I got 8 good stories I could tell, talking about the NWO and other things.
Right.
And he said, let's do it. So I decided to help him promote the book by 8 podcasts. So now I think we're up to 42, but
wow.
I need to get back and doing more. I've done actually more podcasts for other people recently than I have for myself.
Right.
I got to get after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's good to be on here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to take up the most of your day, so we'll try and wrap up here pretty soon. But if you wouldn't mind, how did you part ways with wrestling? What's the story with that?
Ric Flair said that he was wondering why I wasn't at WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I was sick of having a cattle prod to get anybody to do anything.
Really?
As a producer.
Yeah.
Because towards the end, people just didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to promote themselves. I mean, it was an opportunity. Say if you're selling a product, say you're a box of cereal.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what a wrestler is. And what all of us are, really, in life. We have to sell ourselves, right?
Right.
So the opportunity to get in front of a crowd with a microphone in your hand, you should take that every time and make the best out of it.
Absolutely.
That's just my own personal thoughts.
Right.
Well, if you know the inside of how some people got great, let's follow somebody like Cactus Jack, Mick Foley.
Okay.
One of my favorite interviews of all times.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why he is regarded as one of the best interviewees is because that's what he did all the time. So when we had local people wanting to talk to wrestlers, he would volunteer every time.
Right.
Because he knew reputation was what it was all about as far as getting better on the air.
He seems like a very easy person to talk to, just from a couple of interviews that I saw.
He's super cool,
Mm-hmm.
super nice guy, just a great person. And one thing that Stone Cold Steve Austin, Stunning Steve Austin says in one of his podcasts is he wouldn't let you turn on the radio when you'd ride with him.
Really?
They would do interviews back and forth. See, that's how you get good at it. You just continuously do it all the time. And I know just listening to my podcast or from earlier segments, I can tell so much. I'm still not good at it, but I've really improved a whole lot just out of reputation and getting confident and speaking and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Ric Flair convinced you to try to go to the WWF?
Well, he just asked me. He didn't say they had a position for me or anything like that.
Okay.
He just said he's surprised I wasn't up there. And so I thought that was like a gate to say if I really wanted to, I could try. But I was honestly really burnt out on the business and just kind of ready to do something else. I didn't know what else exactly. But I was kind of worn out actually when we were done with WCW.
Right.
I was just tired, man. We had busted our butt for so many years trying to keep up, and our staff was a lot smaller than WWF and WWE had. Their inner workings, they're a wrestling company that's their product and that's what they have to do.
Right.
Turner was a company that already had a bunch of other brands and products, and we were just one of the many. So in lies the difference. WWF, WWE, they're doing it out of survival. They have to.
Right.
They have to nail it. They have to get it right. They don't have a choice. We could have collapsed and still been all right. And obviously Turner has, although they had really gone downhill since then and really, I thought, screwed up, they're still surviving. Not really well, but.
So you think that
Turner Sports,
that Survivor's Edge that kind of got everybody through the 90s and stuff like that, is that still around today? Do you think that their motivation is different today?
Oh, a lot different. When you have people knocking at your door, as far as competition goes, it made everybody better.
Yeah. When
we went against each other. Now, I think AEW is probably making WWE a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
But I think there's room for both. And I don't think the way Vince has got it set up and the way he's always done it, and I don't know a lot of the inside workings of it, but the guy's always got a plan. Mm-hmm. And that's something you have to survive in the wrestling business. You have to have a plan and move forward with it, no matter what. You just can't make stuff up on the spot, and you just can't shove things under the rug. Make it look like you meant to do that.
Right.
I think a lot of times we would be like a cat in the cat box. We'd have a mistake happen, or something go wrong,
Right.
and then we would just cover it up. When in fact, sometimes it's best to exploit it so you can keep on going with something that you never thought about.
Yeah, I could. Just watching that documentary. What was that documentary, Mitch?
Oh, we were watching on the Peacock, the WWE Network. We were watching the Monday Night War. I was having Hayden refresh learn his history because I watched all this stuff growing up. But I was
when somebody would get injured or something like that, they would definitely exploit the hell out of that. And I thought that was just crazy but fascinating. So
I think you have to do stuff like that because if life goes on, I mean, we have our twists and turns in natural life, and they don't go as planned, so you got to figure it out. And once he's covering it up, I think it just doesn't work.
So you said you were working for wrestling till what year?
2001.
2001. So you part ways in 2001. What's next for Mr. Pruitt?
Well, it was actually very difficult times for me because I struggled to get a job.
Really?
There wasn't a whole lot going on then, and the production was kind of slow, and my paycheck was pretty good at the time. So people would look at me and go, "You made how much?" or "You make how much?" So they'd also, I think, unfortunately, be intimidated a bit if they were a person trying to hire someone.
Really?
Because of the amount of stuff I had on my resume. Actually, I was so fortunate enough. God had blessed me so many times to be in the right place at the right time and get positions that were dream jobs over and over.
Yeah.
That when people look at what I did, they'd like, man, I think this guy could take my job in a minute. That's kind of how I felt. That may have, and I may be totally off base, but I think if I were there, I would probably go, this guy's got a lot of experience. He could take my job in a minute. But I wasn't out to take people's job. I was just out to get mine.
I hear you.
And my goal has always been to make my boss look as good as possible, because then they're not coming down on me, and they're not paying or spending so much time over my shoulder.
Right.
Because I want to kind of do my own thing. And I was lucky enough to get that so many times. They give me an assignment. Like sometimes I wouldn't talk to my boss for a couple of weeks at WCW because we just email back and forth, and then I deliver the product, and they were cool with it.
Right.
And that's how I always wanted to be, where they never had to come looking for me to see if I was working on something, because they knew I was. Gotcha. And if I make my bosses look better, what does that do? That makes me able to put together some of my thoughts and say, hey, how about this? And I go, yeah, that's cool, because it makes them look good in the end. And that was my whole goal, to make my boss look great.
Okay. Which
in turn helps me out.
Well,
it was a great fun, man. I had a blast doing it. And I so appreciate the people that watched. I mean, it was a joy in life to go to work every day and just have fun like that. And the production people that we had were the best in the world, and they would do whatever you needed. And if they weren't that type of person, they would move on. We'd help them move on. But the people that were there that stayed, dedication, professionalism, man, all that was who they were. They were awesome.
I do have a quick question as far as like all the wrestlers and stuff that you've known. Who is just the most insufferable one that you just? I just want to know. It's like, who was just difficult to work with, like just couldn't do it.
You don't have to answer that if you don't. We can move on.
No, I can answer that one.
Okay.
I really had a real difficult time with Lex Luger.
Really?
Lex Luger.
He was the worst ever for me. He, unfortunately, I think went out of his way to be difficult. Now, let's fast forward many years. He's a different human being now.
Oh, yeah.
With Christ in his life, he has changed his demeanor 180 degrees, and is the nicest, most gracious, humble person now. But back then, he was like, if you're not helping out Lex World, then I don't care to deal with you.
Yeah. But
that's an easy choice.
You go work with him today, though, huh?
Oh, absolutely. In a minute. Okay. Yeah.
That's good to hear. So.
And Flair, I like dealing with Flair, but sometimes he would do things that really annoyed me.
Like woo?
I used to produce. Woo! No, I like the woo.
I'm trying to go
I
to the
can't do it
bathroom.
very. I can't do it very well, but I used to produce the segment called Flair for the Gold. It was where we were like at a penthouse and setting, and actually Fifi, the maid, who is now his wife, she was on the set, and Arn was always the partner that was kind of hanging out at the penthouse.
Right.
And then we'd have different people stop by, of course, and that would be controversial from time to time and hilarious at others, where somebody like the Shockmaster would fall through the wall and have his helmet spinning on national TV, and the whole embarrassing situation that was. But it was live, and it was you can't cover that up.
That's funny.
But he's such a great guy, and he's turned it into such a thing that he's really turned it around with that. But Flair would do the rehearsals with he would do that with his hair like maybe wet or something like that, not dry like he was going to do it later. I said, Flair, we use some of these takes that you do better on the first one.
Right.
I said, to make you look the best I can,
Yeah.
I need you to have your hair looking the same both times, dude.
Well, maybe he's just spontaneously sweating, you know. So.
Well, yeah. What's the thing about it is, like, you just now anybody else, Arn, Fifi, you could take them, any take.
Yeah.
They look identical, and most of the other wrestlers the same way.
Right.
The Flair's hair would be sometimes where you couldn't even use that take at all. I mean, you couldn't even. I mean, you could use the cutaways of all the other people and everything, and the reactions and whatever audio they had. You could use all that, but not Flair.
That's why Ric Flair
drive me crazy.
Would woo in the camera with his face 2 inches away. That way you couldn't see his hair. So
Yeah, well, he was a special talent, no doubt. He could really do it, but he could never tell me how he did it. But it was just such part of him, He was fun to work with. They all were, really. I can't think of more than a couple that I really did enjoy working with.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today for our podcast. Is there anything you'd like to plug, like your podcast, your books, or anything that you want to let everyone know about before we close? Yeah,
my ex-wife said that I had to write a book, but I said, well, here's the problem. I'd have to have a lot of people die before I did, so I wouldn't.
Right. Work for the CIA.
But no, if you could do me a favor, just go to iTunes or iHeartRadio, look up Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW, Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro, and check out Guy Evans and myself. Guy Evans is the author of a book called Nitro, The Incredible Rise, Inevitable Collapse of Ted Turner's WCW.
Okay.
You can find that on Amazon, and you can find it not only in regular book form, but also in audio form. So you can just download that and start listening today if you want.
Absolutely. We'll plug that. And the name of your podcast again, sir?
Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro.
All right. We'll make sure that everybody understands that.
Awesome. Yeah, we talk about production, and nobody else does that. It's the most unusual podcast out there on wrestling.
Hey, that's my favorite part about wrestling. So,
Good deal.
All right, well, Mr. Pruitt, if you'll hang around for just a second, but we're going to go ahead and wrap up the recording here.
From Neal Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro in the New World Order. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.